And from the perspective of the emerging manager, of course, the conversation can sometimes be quite easy in this regard of limiting capacity. Well, sure, for somebody starting out, they'll be happy to admit, yes, I will limit capacity. They're looking to essentially get into business. So it's an easy one to sort of say, but what are your observations then going really all the way to managers who are just starting out literally? What do you look for that helps you assess the manager's true attitude toward that, and sort of what do you really look for with emerging managers?
That's the toughest thing.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because Todd can go in and do a meeting and come out and say, this is a philosophy that makes perfect sense. And his decision making can be done like that. When it comes to thinking about the partnership between us and the manager that we're representing, it takes some time. Mm-hmm. And that's why we tend to be very patient. Since our launch, we've worked with just 3 managers. And I think we are probably one sort of ahead of the game in terms of our bandwidth. We have just taken on 2 new partners, which we're excited about, who are going to join Lyndhurst in about 2 weeks, which will help us to be able to continue to provide a robust relationship with our managers. But I think gaining that level of trust, because, and Todd can attest to this, there are many due diligence research books on managers that are littered with goalposts moving of we're going to close it at $3 billion, and then they decide we're going to close it at $5 billion, and then they said, well, we can do $8 billion.
Yeah.
So it's one of those time is the pawnbroker of that value, because managers start to think that, and in their own defense, they're thinking, what's the alternative? Here I'm doing well. I think I can do $3 billion, or I think I can do $5 billion. They're better off with me than in an index. So it makes sense for me to continue to grow, given that the demand is there and these investors deserve that. So for us, it's spending time with them. It's not putting words in their mouth. Mm-hmm. It's letting them tell us how they think about the business. And at the end of the day, if they don't stick to that sort of limited capacity level that they originally said, we can always tell our clients that it's time to think about another strategy. We haven't gotten there yet, but it's something we talk about, and I don't know if you want to add something.
It really is. It's the only thing I would add to that is as Dave mentioned, it's the greatest rationalization thoughts that ever come out. There's always just a couple more names. No, I can really change. It's not a problem. It's not going to change. So. You're right. It's one thing. It's easy to say. It's hard when it gets to that point. And part of it is likely they've struggled for 5 or 6 years. They finally got the track record. They're finally getting the recognition that they want. And now they have to tell themselves, no, I'm not going to walk away. And we kind of hope that the managers we work with and partner with will do that. One of the things that we look for is a manager's willingness to actually put it on paper, that they are going to halt it at a certain level, whether that's 500 million or $1 billion or $1.5 billion, whatever that number ultimately becomes. But Dave's right. We don't want to necessarily tell them. We want them to tell us, yeah, we think that this is the right number. And then we'll make that assessment if we're comfortable with that. But we want to see it, because then if they lead the discussion, we know they're thinking about it and they're really trying to work at it. But then we really like to see them say, and in the presentation material and the DDQs, RFIs, whatever, we'll put that number. Because if they're willing to do that, then they're willing. We think it's a way to hold themselves to it, at least a hope that it will.